Hello, navigators. We are back and we are here for yet another insightful conversation. And as you know, I never sit alone and never converse alone. I am here once more with our very favorite. I am seated here today with Dr. Zukona. Hello, my sweetheart.
Hello, my
It's
love.
been a minute.
It's been a minute.
How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Great to have you here.
It's good to be here always.
Mr. Zongs, the only man,
Yeah.
the only thorn amongst these beautiful roses,
Yeah,
right?
am I the rose to have two songs?
I feel like you are the actual rose today. Lovely having you back here.
Yo, Chonga, always great to be here, man. You know, Doc, good to see
Beautiful.
you as well.
Good to see you too.
Chovito.
It's been a minute, yeah.
Yeah, the last time I was here, the two of you, the grilling.
But I loved it.
I wasn't
loved every
here.
minute.
I was certainly not here. South Africa, world, we are here for a very important topic. We are talking everything mental health. This is a topic we haven't quite covered extensively to date, but it has come up in our content in many different ways as we covered the many different and interesting topics that we have had to deal with previously. But statistics do indicate this is something we can't ignore. As it states today, in the world, we know that 1 out of every 6 people suffers somewhat of mental related issues. And that's from your depression, that's from anxiety, bipolar. I could name quite a number of them. And this is something that is also not showing signs of departing amongst society today. It's something that we are learning about, we are getting to understand. But it is also something that we are living with, something that is affecting ourselves, our quality of life, and how we interact with the world around us. So we're here today to discuss what is this thing that's concerning your mental health. I know it does carry a lot of stigma. In our culture, people will talk of abantu with mental health issues as, there's these terms. Sentences aren't completed. People will not say, uviwe suffers from. Right? I'm sure you guys can relate to some extent. And there's a myriad of other terms that are used. Lowa say mental health. That one belongs there, or that one is yamshia, or whatever the case might be. They need to be balanced for them to be. Yeah. And we've come through a very long history of many stigmas that have been attached previously to things like HIV, to things, and I'm just mentioning that as one thing. And I know the value of conversations and the value of deliberating and what that has done to push back against the stigmas that were there. We are hoping to contribute towards making sure that we also do a bit of pushback against the stigmas that are attached to mental health issues. They affect us, as I said, we live with them. And I think I'm just opening the floor with that to say maybe Zukona, and I speak to you from a point of advantage in knowing that you're in the healthcare space, right? And I know, and I want to ask you this question first, that it almost seems as though mental health is not only stigmatized from a point of understanding. I think it's stigmatized mostly from people thinking that people that should suffer it should be in some ward somewhere. And payana, these are people that jump, unprovoked and so on. And yet we understand that in modern day we live and we survive with mental health. What has been your exposure, in terms of whether it's people that live with it or whether it's people that you associate with outside work that, but what has been your exposure to mental health issues?
Okay, wow. First of all, I just want to emphasize that in mental health and mental health disorders is, especially in the context of our country, is quite a new science, so to speak. Because if you go back, you'll find that initially Robben Island was actually meant to house the people who were insane. So
insanity is not a new thing.
Yes, they were mad. These were the people that could not be cured, so to speak. I would like to think that a lot of the stigma stems to the fact that this is relatively new. If you were to compare it with a lot of other illnesses that have been there through time. So I would say within, if I can say, my own evolution in terms of understanding it. I remember as a medical student, we used to be taken to this hospital. There's a hospital in Pietermaritzburg that's called oh gosh, I'm so sorry, I've forgotten the name. We would be there for like 6 weeks, and we'd have to interview, these patients that are admitted there. And I just remember, because I was also young, I remember thinking, to me, it's like these people are just not snapping out of this thing. To me, I remember being a medical student and really thinking, but this whole thing, we do something called clerking. It's called history taking.
Yeah.
When you're telling me your story, and I'm writing it down, and I'm going to say, I'm going to go to my supervisor, to my teacher, and say I interviewed
and
Miss
so on.
Viwe and
Yes,
so on.
yeah.
And I remember with those interviews, like people were like, my husband used to sleep with his girlfriend next to me, and they'd say things for me that made me feel, but hey man, these people are weak. There's a sign for me. I came out of those 6 weeks thinking, but yes, there's just a level of weakness just all around. Why can't they just be a little bit stronger? I wish they can take my strength for 2 weeks, just for 2 weeks. And if they could
Or
do
you
that,
can take over their roles
yes,
for 2 weeks.
Yes, in 2 weeks, they will be cured, because I will live the right life for them, so that they're not. And lo and behold, God has a way of then seeing that you've got a gap, and then seeing that in this gap, Mtanam, I'm going to use you to fill that gap. I'm going to use you, that you've got a gap, Mtanam, and in that gap, you are going to be an advocate of these people that are weak.
I love that. And that's how it turned out for you.
And that's how it turned out for me, because
I love that.
That's how it turned out for me. God said, okay, I'm weak. You're going to you're going
to be strong on
you're going to stand for the weak. Go and straighten them, because and so I'd say Viwe, as a medical doctor, of course you have to then learn something called the DSM-5. It's a type of diagnostic criteria to be able to diagnose any type of mental illness. So if we were to talk in a podcast like this, and viewers at home, I want you to know that we're taking this episode very seriously. We are we're talking facts. We're not taking this light. We're not talking jolo here. Here we're talking about people's lives.
Yes, absolutely.
So I would say that I've seen a lot of patients that suffer from anxiety, because anxiety comes in many forms. Mood disorders are going to range from your depressive states, your major depressive disorders. There will be mood disorders that are also bipolar. Bipolar is a mood disorder because it is like a bipolar.
Extremes.
It's extremes. Either you're very, very happy, very manic, or very down. So people with it are usually they are caught in between. Yes, their world is in between.
Yeah.
And then and anxiety, like I said, anxiety has got a lot of things, and I do want to make a special talk about teenagers. Teenagers are starting to just, we see them, like, when I'm on call, I see at least 3-4 teenagers that are coming with panic disorders, all of those things. But I will be able to maybe refine how to diagnose it as we go on in the episode.
Thank you for that, Doc. Wow. Zonge, one article I read, when it was addressing the stresses that might cause these different types of mental health issues, is how we as society are living our lives today. The pressure to perform, which can be exacerbated by how public things are via social media. And I can imagine for somebody who's lived a public life as yourself, and I'm not meaning to shine any light on your specific life,
of course,
but maybe wisdom from how you've experienced, the not so much the industry, but the notion of having to constantly be somebody who shows up, who wins. Because I remember looking at Brian, back in the days, my friend, for me, I don't associate your name, your brand with anything but stardom, and how does that pressure maybe, whether in your life or in your peers, as you've seen, the pressure to perform, how do you think it affects one's mental health and one's ability to survive?
It happens. And I was 21.
Years old.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, in Johannesburg. When I eventually decided, Ndobana, flip, I need to go and see someone about this. I can't end up having sleepless nights. Now, I am an insomniac, and most, Ndobana, anxiety will lead you to not sleep.
Is it?
Yeah. I'm an insomniac. Now, I survive literally on 2-3 hours of sleep. I can survive. It's not healthy.
It is definitely not healthy.
No, it isn't healthy. It isn't healthy. And you need to find your triggers. I got to identify my triggers. Okay, cool. Kusube kutheni when I'll start feeling a certain way. But also, and speaking of the industry itself, people like WHP suffer from depression. I remember the one time he was actually joking about, I feel like such a failure. Did he know? And he's like, my man, I was sitting in the car in the garage, the exhaust pipe was in and whatnot, and basically he was trying
to take his life.
He was trying to take his life.
Yeah.
Now, I feel like I couldn't even kill myself, dog. What do you mean? What happened? Man, as I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking, I need another spliff. So,
I'm sorry, it's not even a laughing matter.
No, it was like, and it was funny as hell because no, flip, I need another spliff. And
life became different from him.
You know what I mean? But eventually, it did happen. He took his life. But even izinto inyewances ezinjalo zobana flip, I couldn't even take my own life. I feel like a failure, And I'm like, no, man, it's nothing to joke about, Lena. I'm glad you failed. I'm glad you failed, but don't feel like we win.
Wow.
Ziba khona triggers, man. And the saddest thing when we and talk is that sibangaka. Raising kids, have raised kids, have been married twice. Awufuni, the last thing you want when you realize and when you've been diagnosed with the anxiety and depression is ubana mhlawumbi ibe ngathi you are a burden on someone. So you don't want that, shame, So you keep quiet about it and you hide it. And believe me, we hide it well. We hide our depression. We hide it very well. Depression, anxiety, we hide it very well. To a point where and at that point, Umto has just snapped and decided to ban out.
This is it.
This is it.
Wow.
The saddest thing about people abafana nam is that we hide it.
And if I can add something there, Brian, is that in hiding it, we hide it so well. And that is why we get those reports that someone unalived themselves and did not even leave a note. They did not even leave a note.
Yeah.
I mean, I think for me that act of not even leaving a note is saying I've actually left notes for years and you didn't read them.
Yeah.
For me, I've been in front of you for years and you didn't read the letter. So you didn't read it. So what's the point of me writing it right now? And what I wanted to say as well from what you're saying is that gosh, it's a very lonely illness. And what has made me, you've just made me remember something. When I was first diagnosed with depression.
Oh, so Doc, you've been diagnosed with
yes, of course.
Okay.
Oh, yes. I've been diagnosed with depression and
anxiety.
And, I remember the first time I was diagnosed was in 2016. And of course, when you get diagnosed and you see the psychologist, you see the psychiatrist, you get given medication, and there are some things you don't really understand, maybe because even at that time you're not well yourself. At the time, all of this medication is happening and all of this is happening. So I remember I'd come home. I came home and I had my script and I got my tablets. And I remember every time I took my tablets, my mom would die. My mother would die. She felt like she had done something so wrong. Why couldn't she save me? She felt, the first time I took treatment, I got so worse because I stopped for the sake of my mom.
Yeah.
My mom could not handle me being sick, especially sick in a mental way, because mental has got its own stigmas,
It's not
its
physical,
own.
bro.
Yeah, her daughter was fractured. She did not want to accept that. So it's a hard one. I want us to navigators. I want us to also look at, you know how when HIV came, we were told that you are either, all of us are affected, ne? You can be infected or you are affected by it.
Yeah.
And the same with mental health. In mental health, you may not suffer from it, but your loved one will. We have to find ways to be able to assist our loved ones. And for me, my mother didn't know mental health at the time. And I think a year later, she was like, yo, mtanam, I thought I'm depressed, I'm frustrated, like there's a man like who's left you. Depression for me was like, oh, I shamone frata. And I didn't understand why if frata yako is going to give you medication. Kudala mna, I've been frata for so long and no one gave me tablets.
I want to come back on that. I want to really come back on that. And thank you for your disclosure as well.
Welcome to our lives.
I feel like welcome to the show, everybody. Interesting. I actually came across a clip, and I think in my preparation for today's show, and this person who also happens to practice in the mental health care space, and I want you to balance me in terms of how people can relate to content like that, right? One, I think there's an admission that both of you have made. Okay, I'm not going to say I haven't lived a very tough life. My life is extremely tough. I may have not been diagnosed, but it does not mean anyone is clear till you go for assessment, So I think as the first point, let's first treat that so that whatever I say next does not seem like it's coming from a point of arrogance and,
Sure.
It is coming from just truth and honesty and saying, can we explore this further, This person says, look, unfortunately, life is meant to be tough. And unfortunately, life is never going to give us what we expect. It's our adaptability that determines our ability to survive, right? And what they speak to is that, so part of life being tough is that it will be tough on you as well.
Yeah.
But what she may be advocating, and it's unfortunately I will never be able to quote her verbatim, was that maybe, there is a mental health issues, but there is also affecting the states we're dealing with today, a large grouping of people that when they go through something, they immediately self-diagnose to depression. And because your mind will give you more of what you give it, so your mind starts confirming through symptoms and other issues that indeed what you are going through is depression. So in terms of your understanding of the illness, and maybe I'm coming to you, Zukon,
okay, all right,
is that because it is not something, if you are, and this is also true for HIV people. Other people would self-diagnose without getting tested and live their lives believing that their lives are either positive or so, whatever one chooses to believe. Now, what I'm trying to say, because it's not a hard science, it is a hard proven science that mental illness is a true thing. But because people are able to self-diagnose, how much do we know about the truthfulness of the stats? How much do we know of really the real prevalence? Not to going to Google and saying, I've been feeling down, because life is going to be hard on you at times. And do we want people then running to self-diagnose, closing curtains, and making it acceptable for them to tap out of life for brief periods or whatever periods they determine,
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that question. First of all, I'd like to say that no one is going to self-diagnose diabetes on themselves.
No, absolutely
I can't
not.
wake up today and say, you know what, I'm a diabetic.
I understand.
So it's exactly the same as with mental health. And for you to actually have a diagnosis of mental health, either of depression, bipolar, generalized anxiety, panic disorder, there has to be a healthcare professional who's going to diagnose that for you. There's gonna be criteria. Okay, I'm gonna make an example of criteria for major depressive disorder for depression.
Yeah.
You have to have suffered these symptoms for at least 6 months.
Okay.
And you must at least have 5 of them that have been ticked. These include insomnia, loss of weight, that's or
Unexplainable.
unexplained loss of weight or gaining of weight, everything that you do it in a
mental-
slow manner. Your functionality is so slow. You are socially, you're not inept. Your functionality is not inept. Work environment, you want to be alone all the time. You're feeling guilty all the time.
Curtains
You're having
are
these
always
symptoms of you're feeling guilty. You want to be alone. And the very last one they'll always say is the one where you want to end your life, and so there's about 10 or so, ne? But the very last one is the one where you have these suicidal ideations, where it seems to me as though the only thing that's going to assist me with all of these symptoms is if my life ends, and that's where that is in the how we no longer say Zikhona died of suicide. We now say Zikhona died by suicide, because that is the now correct way to say it. Because this suicide, I did not really bring it upon myself. This is the end result of my illness. Just like in cancer, you can have an end result of death because then it has metastasized to your brain, to your lungs, to your whatnot. With mental health, you can have an end result of being suicide. You can die by suicide, and that's the most most kind way to phrase it. You phrase it still giving the person dignity. I still hear people say everywhere, uzibulele, hey, I want uzafika thini kuThixo. I mean, people have HIV. They didn't use condoms. They die from HIV-related things. What are they going to say to Thixo for not using the condom? They were supposed to use the condom and not get the HIV. I'm so sorry I'm making that example, but I just think that we also have to be radical in how we try to change how people view mental health, because perception, because it's because it looks like God is going to be very comfortable with someone who decided not to condomize for 10 years and got HIV and then died from meningitis. It seems that God is going to be very, as compared to someone who took their own life from an undiagnosed, maybe mental health disorder they never got treatment for. So viewer, there is no place to self-diagnose in mental health there, because there's treatment. Just like there's treatment for diabetes, there's treatment for mental health disorders. There's treatment for diabetes. You also read for depression. There's treatment for anxiety. There's treatment for OCD. All of there's treatment, and the treatment is not just the oral treatments. There's treatments like cognitive behavioral therapy, where you go and see a psychologist who assists your brain, to actually, because it affects your cognition a lot. One of those criteria is that you get memory loss. You get to forget even the things that you know every day. Imagine being a lecturer and having to be teaching high mathematics to students, calculus, differential calculus to students, and you suffer from a depression. You're not able to process those things the way that you usually can, because this affects your cognition. So you've got things like your cognitive behavioral therapy, you've got your psychotherapy. So there is help. There is no place for people to say, oh no, let me take my curtains and close them, and I've got depression and I'm not going to wake up for the next 2 weeks.
Which is the most immediate thing that happens in Doba. You don't even want to see daylight, bro.
I want to come
Can I explain the daylight? I'm so sorry. I have to say this.
Before you come to the daylight, I'm listening to you, and I'm actually catching on so much. But I'm also seated here and thinking, you know what? It's easy for us to vilify inputs that differs from our understanding, right? And I think at the end, the responsibility still sits on us to say, if I now know how it feels like to carry this disease, right, I will take those that are important to me along with me on the journey, because this is also something that we're not too familiar with, right? And hence I was saying it's easy, because remember this, we have a local hospital that deals with mental issues. And in the instances that I've had to go visit somebody there, it would have been a direct response to something traumatic. Whether umuntu ubone indoda yakhe ijola and they couldn't deal with that in the moment, and that becomes the moment where they present themselves. So because for me, it will always sit with it's a personal conviction for me that given what I've been through as a person, I sit here knowing very well that whoever comes in my life and decides to live, I don't think they would leave me in a position where I want to be admitted, because I've already gone through the cycle of pain and returning, you know, so I already have a mechanism that sees me in every chapter, you know, sees me with or without somebody, you know. Now, if you are someone in my life who goes in there, for me, it remains an event that how I relate to it is you can be able to move on from it, right? Hence, I'm saying then the responsibility also comes with you knowing what it is and carrying the people that are around you with understanding what it is. That backed now with a question. That whole story that I said, right? That in instances where we are living with people that have been diagnosed, right? Is it always an issue that this becomes like a chronic issue, right? Or is it sometimes an event which they need to learn from? Because as I said, guys, like life serves as pain, you know, as part of the cycle of life.
I want to answer before I forget some of the things you're asking. Ne? These things are multifactorial. Ne? When I say that, I can be a Zikona who's married to a billionaire, and every 2 seconds we are in Spain, we are in Mykonos, and I can have depression, ne? Because it can be an organic thing. My brain itself has got less dopamine, less serotonin. It's got a lot of, it's got those things, neurotransmitters, hormones. I can just by being me, I can be more, my body is more prone to be depressed because my levels are low. You know what I mean?
Your
so you can just my mental chemical balance is off. It's not normal. It doesn't mean there's anything. My husband is not cheating on me. In fact, he gives me 1 million rands a day. My kids are doing good at school. It is not. Mental illness is not. It does not have barriers. It does not say that. I was reading something that actually quite hurt me yesterday on Facebook, where someone said, "No, when depression is for people who is for rich people. When I just go and drink a man's and swekil. When you are okay, depression is for rich people.
Okay.
Depression, mental health knows no boundaries, viewers. Ne? So if we can be able to understand that, first of all, you can get these things without anything happening wrong in your life.
No triggers
That's
whatsoever.
And because this is also genetic too.
Okay.
Because if your father had a mental illness or your mother had an illness, it can also be run in the family. So that means there's a chronicity element to it. Do you understand? You are also talking about chronic. Ne? When we're talking genetic, we're then saying that this thing can also be, you can then be taking life chronically because you took it genetically. Now, going to what Vio was saying, that it can happen following an event. That's what it was. An event. It can be a loss of a child, a loss of a spouse, a loss that can compound so much that it can cause someone to break,
to sink.
And in that, to sink and to break. And you'll see that's why there are people who are treated for 6 months, and after 6 months they are deemed to be okay, the treatment is taken, and there are people who are treated for life. And a lot of people are treated for life. There's a lot of genetic component to their story. There's a lot of complexness to their story. There's a lot of, and because some people, not everyone is able to actually get better from psychotherapy, from cognitive behavioral therapy, from tablets. Some people even end up having to receive something called electroconvulsive therapy, where they actually shock your brain. Like it happens, I think every 2 weeks for 6 weeks or something like that, where they shock your brain just for your brain to like
function
shock
differently.
and function differently. So if I'm answering your question, Gakleviwe, ikona, the one that you are saying, that is precipitated by something. Ikona that is not precipitated by something, or someone is 16, 17, 18, they have a total change of behavior. If you go back to those people, you'll find that actually in the family tree, this is not happening for the first time. So this is not it's not an index presentation as part of the family. It's an index presentation on the patient themselves. So this situation, that's why I don't want us to take it lightly. It is not always preceded by an event. It is not, and on a personal level, my father took his own life, and I must have been 4 when my father did this. Died by suicide. We're correcting ourselves. Yes. When he died by suicide, I must have been 4, and during that time he'd have this abnormal behavior. and run around naked, run around everywhere, and then people would come, would take him, and they would restrain him. And on one of these days, they tried to restrain him, and and they left and did their own thing, and he unrestrained himself, and he went to court to do the deed. And that, navigators, I want you to understand, some parents of yours will do that, some family members will do that. That has no bearing. It didn't mean that my father didn't love me. My father was not well. Bro. My father was not well and was untreated, and that was the end. That was the how his illness ended up. His cancer became him taking his life. We want to make it clear that these are serious issues.
I understand. I almost don't want to assume this position, but I also want to assume it for the clarity which I think it will offer. When somebody says, and I bare my soul to you, you know, when you are hurt by such things, but the social media is almost like an ocean of different views and many different views. Positions. Everybody has permission to express how they feel, what they think about certain things, and hence you would come across something that maybe suggests that depression is for moneyed people. You know, it's almost like a soft illness, so to speak, or soft life rather illness.
Soft life problems.
And sometimes, yes, absolutely. It's like, you've arrived in life. And, you know, the fact that you've got
the ultimate
issues, you've got like private school illnesses.
You know, they went to private school.
And they were saying, you know, almost suggesting that, guys, if you're battling poverty, you have no time.
I'll afford.
And as you're expressing your hurt, I was like thinking, okay, what could be in that? Because you must remember, for everybody who expresses, you know, it's their view sometimes from how they've interacted with life, right? And I was thinking, okay, ndisuke ezilalini. Mental health, yes, it be corner, but it would be so glaringly obvious. La mntu ligeza, you know, surely. Akanxibi akahlambi ligeza basically ngulomuntu waziwayo apha elalini ba utamthura ayisukalela geza naxa uzawugezelwa uzawufaniswa notamthura you know uba utamthura mna ndandikhe ndanalo ke nelali ndifuna lalithi nelibinyuka into leyo mangapha kweyadi yevewe sasimazi nje uba akakho right uyabona and ndikhule ndincithwa ngaye kusithwa ngumntu wam uyayibona and ubugeza honestly was mental health.
Now do you wonder why you have people like myself in your life now? It's come back full fruition.
Right?
Full circle.
It's come back full circle.
So it would be, listen friend, so it would be so obvious that this person is mentally depressed, you know, one reason. And whether is lalini then it would be we nobody really, you know, but that's calling into zinjalo, right? And the form of depression that we can sit here and I can be surprised when you're like, I was diagnosed 2010 or me, wasn't something we lived with. At least I'm sure we can all relate to that, right? And when somebody hasn't really taken their time to understand what this dynamic is, you know, then I understand how they could fall back into into abantu abanemali. Because when we grow up, you were either a healthy person or ubuya phambana ubonakala uzihambela. Do you understand? And hence for me, I still think there is misinformation. I'm sitting here and I'm learning a lot from you too, you know. So there's still the information that hasn't reached many, you know, that expect umntwana mental health that expect if unguzongamele, you know, you are a properly decent guy. We know your work, we know you. So uzabaligeza njani? Hayi nobuneza soft
life problems.
Soft life problems, right? And how do we then deal with that dynamic? Because I'm bringing in on to say, look, as I said earlier, the responsibility is always amongst those who know, to educate those who don't know. And those who don't know might come from a point of ignorance. But that too becomes the challenge of those who know, to say this is how these things, Now, dispel this for me, Doc, you know. Nandazigeza, umntwana mental health, that's all I know, right? And now you are now saying, I'm ignorant. I'm thinking, but that's all life has fed me in terms of information, you know. How do you then differentiate between a mental health case that's able to manage your life and present themselves and have a career abe ngugqirha with kids abapopayo, you know, and all of that, versus igeza in the true sense that I know uba kwa ibroke ayiziphwanga washing umuntu ongutata iphandle usisi usikade neba kube shushu ahambe ngamabele asiqwele
Baylord.
Get me there.
Yes, I hear you.
If I may,
Yeah.
Doc,
Okay, yes,
ne?
please.
If
Yes,
I may, ngicela u-interject. Yazi vi,
Yeah.
2001, bro, I was working for SABC1. I was working on television.
Yes.
And you would expect that that would be the best time of anyone's life.
Absolutely. Nope.
Behind it all is what you go home to. And one of the coldest things about broadcasting and this industry that we decided to get into, when you go on radio, when you go on air, you leave your problems at the door and you pick them up on the way back.
Okay.
You don't take your problems on air.
Okay.
So you end up neglecting yourself. Nengqondo yakho nokubana this is what you're going through right now.
Can I interject though?
Yeah.
Aren't we all supposed to do that when we enter a place of work? Aren't we all expected?
We-
You know, because and I know that mental health now is becoming a thing in the workplace as well. But I want to maybe first check, you know, as an employer as well. Is it not reasonable for me to expect that when we come to work,
Your
if
deliverables.
my boyfriend in Betengembama, that stays outside the workspace till I leave? Wouldn't that be the expectation for you too?
No. If I can interject, there's actually, I know that you guys probably don't have time to watch series. There's a series called Severance. In Severance, 24 hours is divided into 12-12.
Yeah.
12 hours at work, you don't remember your memories of being at home. When you're at home, you have the 12 hours that are at home where you don't remember anything about work. So basically, severance is the severance, severing the ties between your work life and your home life. And it's a very good series. You must watch it. It's
Check
not.
it out.
In the end, I don't think it's quite doable. Who you are, you know how when you wake up and you're having quite a good day. And you end up having a good day at work as well because you like woke up really
In a
everything
great
feeling
mood.
nice
Yeah, it
and sharp.
permeates into your work.
It would be impossible for you to get to work and forget your problems because you're depressed 24/7. You are anxious 24/7. I think Brian and I were talking about that you know, with anxiety most is a feeling of you're persistently worried about the future, worried about work, worried about money, worried about health, worried about that. With anxiety, that constant state of worry is persistent, and as it persists in your life, it does not give you room to say it's now sleeping time. Stop worrying. The time for persistently worrying is over. No, it continues throughout.
So I want to agree with you, but I still want you to respond to my question.
Okay.
That let's say, for example, let's leave depression for a second,
Okay.
and or anxiety or any mental suppressive state, and let us say I am now suffering from a different type of illness.
Yes.
I'm diabetic, right? I am HIV positive.
Okay.
I am any other thing that you can imagine. That forms part of my personal life. It's all the things that I have to deal with. Is it still unfair for me, or for your employer to expect you to wear a work hurt, irrespective of what you are personally going through? You know, and I want to actually come back to what Brian was saying, to say, you know, and broadcasting, you sit in front of the TV.
You gotta smile and wave, boys. Smile
you are
and wave.
looking, oh, yummy.
Smile
But I'm
and
saying,
wave,
and as I was
boys.
listening to you, I was like, but would it then be unfair for the employer to expect you to leave your issues at the door?
I'm gonna extend. No? When I worked for MultiChoice, for instance, right? They had something called ICAS. ICAS. And what ICAS did basically, if you were going through a problem and if you had the issues, employer wakho, MultiChoice at the time, would see to it that uyabhatalelwa into yobana uhambe uyobona a psychologist okanye whatever assistance you need. Uyabo? Now that's the difference between this and being employed by a company
somebody
ebhadlileyo that knows ubana this might be happening, where your employer is saying to you, Ndobana, you got problems. I remember when I was going through my separation and divorce, right? I had to go and see Umdu, and I was there, and it actually helped. I was productive emsebenzini, but emsebenzini they knew Ndobana, dude, one day in a week, so you get employers as in
even
who
government has wellness programs.
Yeah.
Those programs are there to assist with things like this. We've got
work-life balance.
You must also understand, viewer, as much as we're not going to get into this, there are things like alcoholism, substance abuse.
Yeah.
Those are things that are very much linked to mental health. How are they linked? They're linked because people self-medicate. So almost at the end of the day, you want to take away that running feeling like you are running a marathon, yet you're standing with people, your anxious symptoms, your depressive symptoms. When you're taking a glass of alcohol, you feel alive.
You're hiding
in
your
medical
pain.
terms, we say it's self-medication. Instead of going to a doctor, you've actually found a way. Like you said, people can self-diagnose. They can also self-medicate by using substances, by using drugs, and things like wellness care. That's where they come into place and try to get people to rehabs, to try to get the right type of diagnosis for the right kind of help. So that's where proper employment, those are things that should be within labor laws of each company, whether it's in private or public. That should be part of the framework of that company, because wellness is supposed to be a part of it.
You need a healthy employee at the end of the day. So whatever way we can assist you, please make use of e-services as nazo. So to answer your question, absolutely, an employer is deserving of low expectation layer. You leave your problems at the gate, but at the same time, we are people, and we do come with problems. Understanding if I'm taking the day off today, it means I really need the day off. So it needs like what Doc is saying.
It would be very challenging to totally manage. As I'm listening to you, trust me, I am absorbing and I'm imagining a perfect case scenario, you know. But I also want us to acknowledge that in mental health, Kala does also carry a bit of English will fail me, but let's see if I can try. Non-believability.
Oh yeah.
I'll tell you, because as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, yes, we do have cases where people are self-medicating excessively.
Yeah.
Umdu asele comes to Brian now and says, I need a day off because I really need it, right? Whereas, yes, you are not okay as half of the population is not okay at any given hour or minute. But yours has also now been exacerbated by other things. You know, omnye would say, uyanxila lo makayeke uswala utywala. Oh, hayi lona makayeke laa ndoda yakhe. You understand? Because laa ndoda yakhe izamrakisa. You know, oh, hayi lona kwathintintini. But there's always other things that maybe people point out to.
I think that is why I think at the end, okay, ndiyacinga mna personally, if I were to talk about my journey, I don't know.
Before you tell me about your journey,
okay.
I want to ask you, because the question that I'm asking you is gonna speak to your journeys respectively.
Okay.
And I wanna maybe ask anyone, you can take the question if you're ready, that you say, what then breaks the camel's back? You know, what then becomes that moment for you and for you that says, man, the chips are really down, right?
Yeah.
I can no longer conceal lendo savannah if you were taking a savannah. I can no longer conceal this thing by appearing as though I am well put together. You know, I get that challenges are part of our daily lives. I get that I'm not necessarily one person who's going through the most under the sun. Other people are still going through worse than I am, but I'm now met with an inability to survive living as Uzukona without dealing with this thing directly. What then became your moment to say, yes, Indoni, given the fact that I went into that hospital, I interviewed mentally suppressed people, and I came out with a report that says, I need to snap out of this and that and that. And that. So you have that as your background. But now you are now getting that. What then becomes this big moment for you that says, I need help?
When I was 16, I think, yes, I must have been 16. My cousin who I grew up with died. And this is someone I did everything with, everything. We shared each other's clothes. And oh gosh, she was my everything. I was very irresponsible as a child. I remember as a primary school, nandikwelite namagwinya ndikwelite I'm in debt ndikwi-debt yamagwinya ndikwi-debt yesausage like she'd sit down with me khona zama kaloku ungawenzi la matyala lale nto ndiqonde every day she eats nothing and pays for my debts. Every day, an entire year, she stops eating and she pays for my debts. Talks to me on a daily basis. Sikhona, what if someday andikho for ubhatala la matyala? And she and guess sometimes you must remember when you're young, ne? Sometimes bakhona nento zenzileyo that need after school. After school, I go to her, uthe ubani bani siyalo, athi bambheki yami, kubani lo lwana ozikhona ngoba uzolwa nami. Kubani lo lwana ozikhona namhlanje ndizolwa naye, zikhona khapha abantu bambele ibheki yami. So I grew up having someone who had my back, literally in every sense of having a back. Now, on the year we're going to start matric together, she dies in a car accident. Gosh, at the time, I guess in the family, I did not know things about depression or how to help me. I think they saw that I was struggling. I also understood that I was struggling because like I wouldn't even see a door. I would just stand like I can't walk and I couldn't see, So I would say for me, melancholy of not being well, I had to do a lot with that. My ride and die was gone, and my ride and die was gone forever, and this sets the path of my life that is 50% happy and 50% sad at any given point of time. It sets that my life becomes like that forever. Now this is my normal. Of course, I go to varsity. I have the greatest experiences in varsity. She's still with me. She's still with me now. And for me, I think what broke the camel's back was the end of my marriage, The end of my marriage, I don't even think it was the husband, the fact that I was no longer going to have a husband. It was the fact that I was going to be a single mother to 4 children. I think the thought of being a single mother overwhelmed me. I was very overwhelmed, and I was overwhelmed in a way that was not normal when I look at it. Now I really saw dread, and I wanted to die, I wanted to die. As a result, I was admitted 4 times in a psychiatric hospital. 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. I was not able to process the fact that how did I not see it? How was I that stupid? How could you be so stupid? But by 4, why did you at least not have 1 or 2 if you knew that marriages end? So for me, ngelishwa, I think that came on kumntu was already like I've just told you, but this is the unhappiness. I trace back my unhappiness to being a teenager. So now unhappiness ivuleka, So the camel was the fact that
was a build-up.
Okay, Nombuyiselo is gone. Okay, I've had to live with that for some time.
Do you ever speak to Nombuyiselo?
Nombuyiselo and I, we meet in our dreams. We meet in my dreams. I forget she doesn't dream anymore. But the funniest thing is that she's still the same age. She doesn't age. I'm the one who ages throughout time.
So you're getting old, dog.
Yes, I'm the one who's growing old, and we still play. We still run around after each other. So I would have to say it was the end of my marriage, and I understand ngokuba even with my mother's death just came in to add a cherry on top. And with all that, then we talk about a loss, and it is the way in which I'm not able to navigate those losses. And unfortunately, I don't even want to say within this conversation, I'm okay. I understand that I'm never going to be okay.
Work in progress.
But
what makes you understand you'll never be okay? I feel like it's such a self-limiting, and allow me to to poke a hole a bit, because for me it sounds so self-limiting, for you to have such a strong belief about yourself, you'll never be okay.
I think I've lived with myself for 45 years now.
That hurt will always be there. That memory of that person will always exist, and you will always be hurt by their loss.
And Jonga, you must also understand something powerful. Ne? Pain is proportionally equal to the love. So I don't mind that I hurt, because it actually means
I
want to
come back there, because you're speaking to somebody who also lost her mom, and my mother was literally my North Star, right?
Yeah.
And you're not the first person whom I've also understood to say it depends, the proportion of love determines the proportion of hurt.
Pain, yeah.
Yes, and in as much as some of these things sound reasonable, sometimes I feel like we need to visit them, interrogate what they mean, right? I know life, and I'm not making this a dialogue between us, but I would like to maybe pull your brains to curiosity of what would then be the alternative. What if you came to a point of understanding how temporary the journey of life is for all of us?
Oh, yeah, of
and
course.
How blessed we are to have today. Enough for you not to even expect a tomorrow with even me. You know what I mean? Where you understand that life has to end for all of us.
Of course.
And for you, because hence my question earlier, do you ever speak to her? And by speaking to her, navigators, I'm not speaking about let's all go into the spiritual and but I'm speaking of it from a sense of self-healing, from a releasing of something, so that when you actually release it, it becomes something different in your mind as well, that her memory no longer represents loss, it then represents the kind of love that you were blessed with, that you had that person in your life. But cuts away almost from the addiction that says you deserved to have it for the rest of your life.
As losses combined, as losses that I've just mentioned, the losses that change every day, grief changes on a daily basis. Umntu who's walking with journey of grief, today they're grieving something totally different than what they were grieving is all. I understand where you are coming from, viewers, and I wish that it was that easy. There are things that I will never taste again. There are things my mother cooked that I will never taste again in this lifetime. That were beautiful
to enjoy when you had them.
There are things, there are phrases. Oh gosh, mama,
conversations you'll never have again.
Conversations I'm never going to have again.
You'll never see.
And I am not naive enough to not know that these things will never be again. And as such, those things completed what I felt or who I was. And they understand, but I'm not the same person. But without Andy,
look, I don't want you to defend this.
Yes,
listen,
I'm not. I want to grieve my mother.
No,
I want to grieve my mother forever.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Because I love her.
No, that's what I'm trying to say. And I'm glad I'm going to come to you, Zongi, just now.
Yeah.
Because you found comfort in the grieving as a confirmation of love. Do you understand? And that's all I'm trying to say. That as somebody who maybe lost Uma Mike, I didn't define grief. I let grief permeate me. Right? As a result, there's nothing for me to hold on to, because that grief is something that allowed for it to permeate me.
Sure.
And I didn't identify with it.
Sure.
Do you understand? I didn't identify as, the reason I'm going through all of this is because I loved her so much.
Sure.
I just let it visit me there whenever it visited me, to a point where I look at it, with such dismay, but oh my God, this is how you would never speak of my mother and not find me teary, because the floods were open. I mean, I was saying, grief, let it go, let it be,
Yeah.
But Ngoku, you will never find me in that space. And it does not mean I'm mentally healthy, but I'm just saying sometimes the constructs and how we want to process things also determines our level of moving on and letting life touch us. Because you are saying, my dear friend that I love so much, I want to grieve her because I loved her so much. Yes. But I'm saying, if maybe we were to open up a space and be like, let what comes come, You know what I mean? And when it leaves, and that's it. Period. And I want to emphasize on that, not from any position of superiority, guys. That I'm not diagnosed does not make me. I'm not superimposing. But I'm also imagining a point where I am what Zikona's mom was to my kids right now, where I am that source of comfort as I'm made to feel by them in feedback, right? And I'm thinking, my goodness, there's this thing that's called death, which I'm not certain when it will visit me. Would I want them to love me with grief, with grieving me? That would break my heart. That would really break my heart.
It would break my heart too if my kids.
So for me, if they were to find a way of allowing them to grieve me and move on, I think that would be there. But coming back to you, Zongamel, and I'm sorry that I took forever with your story.
No,
there were parts of me that I was identifying with, hence the back and forth, but no invalidation in terms of how you're feeling. If anything, maybe to say, how do we help each other along the journey? I think for me, that was what it was about. What then broke the camel's back? Where you just felt like, I can't go because the chips are down. And when was that?
Yeah. Look, I got to realize that I need to see someone.
Yeah.
In 2001, right? There had been a lot that had been happening.
Okay.
Previously. I remember now, flip. And I was saying earlier on in the one, I've buried most of my friends.
Yeah, you did.
Right. And to what broke the camel's back now was having to go and report to umzali into bana kwenzeke lento kumntanakho.
And the Mdana was the friend of yours.
Mdana was the friend. Yayingabantwana. Bro, I remember from October until December of 99, I think on a weekly basis, whether it was family or friends. By 2001, what broke the camel's back was the death of Utiti Nomuhali. And these were boys of mine. So sasuka apha eMonti, decided to basibheke eGauteng. They used to work for Peter Stuyvesant, BPAT. And I remember that morning, we had just come back from East London, actually, a couple of days before. And one of the girlfriends, Zabo, was saying, we wake up in the morning, Wongumdu is going to a span, Titi says, hey, chance begumnandi ngatu kondozo, like, literally, that very same afternoon, I have an accident. Car gone beyond repairs. Jens, imoto iwile. Ngicela nizondilanda. I know Siyeza. They had an accident.
On their way to?
Gone bona. So Dibane Fletini was our last conversation. That's what broke the camel's back. I won't lie to you. I've lived with that since I was 21. Indobana flip. Denzeni.
Wow.
Denzeni. Like,
sorry,
why
did
this
I
much
hear you
loss?
Correctly? Were you blaming yourself for these events?
I did. No, but like, why am I still alive? Type of thing,
Have you come to answer that question to yourself? Why are you still alive?
Oh, I've got
Okay, love it.
I have a legacy towards my children, which I understand.
Absolutely.
I have lessons to teach. I have a family to take care of. I have a mother. I have sisters. I have my nieces. I've got my kids that I need to live for. It takes a while, bruh.
And you have yourself to live for.
Oh, hell yeah!
Because I'm looking at how you are defining everything that you need to live for, and kids right up your list, which is beautiful. But I mean, I would imagine
it's been rough, V. It's been a rough 26 years.
You want to live for you as well.
Yeah.
Who do you ever become to anyone if you can't
need to
be to yourself?
Need to be.
Because I feel like sometimes we discount.
Yeah.
We discount ourselves in our very definitions of our purpose.
I think
we would discount the I've heard, and I'm not quite sure who was narrating something similar in recent times, but what I could pick up from the whole story was that this person does not count themselves in the factors they need to live for, you know?
Can I be honest?
Yeah.
I don't.
It was easy for me to pick up.
I don't.
It was. And then unfortunately, when you start outside yourself, my friend, I'm also throwing this as something, you know, for you to consider. As I said, I'm no expert, but
Yeah.
if it's going to assist you, it's something to consider, that you can never pour from an empty cup. You can never be anything to anybody else unless you are that thing to yourself.
I think.
Do you understand?
I think I once spoke about this pouring from an empty cup.
You
But,
can't.
and it was on one of the shows. It was on one of the podcasts.
Yeah.
And I said to Bana, I've been pouring.
No. I remember that conversation.
Yeah. We find ourselves pouring, and yes, our individual mental strength is different. We're not as strong as each other. Like, in the same way that we don't look like each other, we are not as mentally strong as each other. Abanye abantu are mentally stronger. And abanye abantu are not necessarily. And I think it's especially for the purposes of this particular episode, we need to understand, Ubana, those of us who are now enlightened to the fact that akukho grand, we need to educate and not make it such a taboo thing. Yobana, bro, you go through an issue, and mental health is a real thing. It's no longer ixesha lobana kuhlaliwe kuthiwe pewu. You know what I mean? It's time ngoku for. I tell my son into bana mfondini xa unengxaki ubotsho. Don't go and die uwedwa. Kwakudla ngothiwa kudala into bana indoda ayikhali. I teach my 23-year-old into bana mfondini inyembezi are not wrong. Inyembezi are not wrong.
I want to come back
And
to this.
the more you suppress ezo nyembezi ezo, that's exactly what then gengoku ends up becoming a mental health issue. It can lead up to a mental health issue. Into bana andikwazi ubonakala ndikhala. I must stay strong. Indoda iguqa ngedolo libe linye isulu inqa ngekhetshini. Bra, kunzima ebomini. Akukho lula. And we can't keep on not showing our emotions. Ayikho le nto into yobana siba weak, siba soft. Bro, I'm a human being. I'm a flipping human being. You know what I mean? So I think we need to learn and teach different. We need to be able to encourage our kids. Guys.
No, that's true. I actually want to say look for help. Absolutely.
Yeah.
On the issue of mental strength, which I actually listened to quite attentively as you were talking.
Yeah.
And you spoke about how singafani in terms of, I don't know if anybody can relate to this. You know, I also think, Oba, to extend to that and maybe to add and maybe put a bit of my own personal perspective, is that for me, nothing is what it seems. Ayikho seriously nonzayithetha, but ndifuna ukubonisa uba, have you ever nanke mntu who was a runner, ufike kwi-running stage kubalekwa, ushiwe ngusisi onguye, you times that.
Yeah.
Because the physical strength is not what you see sometimes. You know, you will see umuntu ufumanisa uba wethu mkhulu lo nzazishiyela yena. Angakushiyi, umuve uye kuxhegwazana, lo mlungu elibaleka apha ecam kwakho. Ufike limhlophe yonke indawo kwa libhandejwe edolo hip. Lingakushiyi ixhegwazana. Kulo 46 kilometers, 42 kilometers nembalekayo. Wena by 10 ufuna ujika. Right? Now, I want to come back now to what you were saying in terms of mental health, right? And the strength and so on. You know, when you start comparing mental health zabantu, you know, you might come up with the conclusions. Umzekelo, at face value, both of you seem to me like mentally strong people. I don't know if you've heard Doc when she starts reiterating everything you thought. Yeman londomazana iyazelapi yonke lento ikhumbula njani. How does she seems like a walking Google something. You know, she'll throw you information.
Yeah.
Left, right, and center. And you'll even think, une mental might lo, you know, strong. Do you understand? At face value and so on. And I think without having, that's why I'm taking it seriously. Because I wanted to emphasize, what you then see is not necessarily what is always the fact around. But having said that as well, I now know from this conversation that we too can carry, and we have a responsibility towards our own mental health.
Absolutely.
That at face value doesn't look strong. It's because they've put in their hours and the exercise and the content, and whatever it is that they need. And when it comes to mental health as well, I do believe, seated here, and in a chance you're is being ignorant, that what you put into your mind is also equally important.
Thank you.
Not every stereotype is applicable to you.
Yeah.
And I want to say that in the light, and this was coming from O'Brien Lee into mental strength. And I hope I'm able to drive something home, not from a point of condescendence of anything, but that belief that says, I loved you, then I've got to grieve you. I think for me, that's loyalty to a state of mind that she wouldn't want for you, that not your mother would want for you. Hence, I said, even as I sit here today with my kids looking up to me as their only source of livelihood, because if mama right? But even with that truth, I wouldn't want them to grieve me out of their love. I would want their love for me to heal them from the loss of me. Okay, so that's why I wanted to land with it. That it's quite important too that as a mental person, you watch what you put into your mind.
Yeah.
You watch these constructs that you live by and see whether or not there's wisdom towards my healing here or there's loyalty towards pain.
Sure.
Do you understand? And those will always be the two differentiating things. If there's anything I could contribute to the topic. Coming back to
something, please.
Yes,
add something. Because today mental strength.
Yes.
I think coupled with mental strength is something called protective factors.
Absolutely.
So in mental health, we always have to identify what are your protective factors. Because it is usually within those factors that one is able to ascertain any type of healing.
Absolutely.
So lack or absence of a protective factor. Any protective factors that you can navigators can be the things that bring us joy. Our children, our parents,
and
our
whatever
siblings,
boundaries we put
our
there.
hobbies. Our hobbies.
Yeah.
You baleka, you gym, you play chess. All those things, don't take them lightly because they are actually protective
and being
factors for your
active.
mind.
It must be nice being you.
No, but I'm actually being serious. Being an adult, you cannot be compounding issues upon yourself. Really, Sasanalam? Go ahead, sorry.
Eminem has a track, no? and he says, and I'm going to talk about, it comes back to Lender of mourning a lost one. And I've actually just remembered it now. He says, long when I'm gone, just carry on.
Absolutely.
Don't mourn. Rejoice every time you hear the sound of my voice. Just know that I'm looking down on you, smiling. And
Absolutely.
I feel no pain. So now we feel no pain. Just smile back.
Sweetheart, that's
now we
beautiful.
just smile back.
That's beautiful.
It's
there's one etty caring while carrying on.
Yeah.
So I think for me that's I'm continuing to care.
Yeah.
Whilst I carry on.
Yeah.
And I think that's been my mantra for the longest time.
We got to, bro.
To always care.
We got to.
And yet to make sure to carry on. So and I just wanted to
care about self.
Do you know what I identify with what Uzkona said? So everybody
You just
knows.
pulled the Zuma right now.
So, oh my goodness.
You just pulled the Jacob Zuma. Tell her she just pulled the Jacob Zuma right now.
So in the period when I had just gone through my divorce, one of the things that I considered quite seriously, at that time you must remember I'm financially strained or financially stretched, if they call it that nowadays.
Hey, bro.
I'm in a financial dip and it's quite dark in there, right? But I'm carrying 2 kids through this darkness.
Yeah.
And I understand how they dream and how their lives are interrupted. And in that period, I decided, well, okay, let me commit. So I take them to psycho interventions, psychologists. They saw child psychologists. And yes, what I'm doing. But I'm saying if there are things they cannot speak to me about, let them speak to her about them. But in the clear, going into it as well, that I'm not going to encourage a culture that almost diagnoses them as abantwana that are lacking in any regard. So as I'm going into it, but already in my head, no, but this is not going on beyond a year. Barely 12 months. Ndanam will deal with irresponses as you, but this one is more like a proactive approach. So I took them through.
That was very good.
So bathathu we went through it. I mean, Sheila, my youngest daughter, was still cryonisha tlayapa. Now you can imagine you're paying from pocket ubuye as any drawing. Your balance here is between 14
but Mchana, take a look at those drawings and see what that drawing, because that drawing tells a story.
Abuye drawing, and my question every day was, Lord, I hope, I can only do what I think is right. I do think I need to give these kids a platform.
Yeah.
But come 12 months, I went like, okay, guys, enough pickup, done. Right? And in my psychology at that time was, if I now pick up, that was without anything. That was understanding the time.
Yeah.
That we're transitioning, and I need to take these kids along with me. You know? And I was also going through my own. Mine lasted longer than theirs, but I was worried about creating dependency on them, making them feel like lesser, like high. Tina, we are those kids that are suffering a mental situation. And then I took them out. Yes, there was a bit of an episode with the older one, couple or twice. But, Mom, I need, and I had organized ad hoc then quickly, see her. But I almost ran away from term and diagnoses because I still felt like, you guys are young. You have to go through betrayals with friends. When your friend betrays your school, it can't be depression. You have to train your muscle to cope. If that one does that, but with an open ear all the time. But I mean, and I want to ask maybe you, in terms of how you manage, I'm not saying, guys, my management of their was about, I'm still listening, and
it was very good.
I'm still listening for feedback and so on, but I know they went strictly for a full year, and I made sure but twice a month
it was brilliant. And the manager would take drawing. I've just said to you, you must actually take a look at those drawings. I remember taking our son, right? And each drawings is like, I spoke a lot to Bana. He drew me with a cell phone in my hand because daddy was always working. Daddy was always on the phone.
Wow.
Calling Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, Konge. Daddy has to go to work. And
mine
as he drew that picture, it was mom and his sister and him. Dad is on the phone over there. It tells a lot. It tells a lot, bro.
It's a scary picture. Look, mine was decoded, guys. I still sit with your reports as well.
Yeah.
The clinical psychology child one was very thorough.
Yeah.
So I still sit with your reports, and I think you're reminding me to go visit them because this is like some 5 years ago.
We end up plowing ourselves into
but
work.
I was just like, how do you read all these drawings and tell me this one
and decipher?
Like that?
Yeah.
Wow. But what's the situation?
I actually realized in Tobana, I'm dedicating too much time towards work. And my son, even when he's here, doesn't feel my presence. I'm always on the phone. I'm always working, so I need to give him more time. It taught me Londo Leyo. And sometimes you need to actually just unlearn what you've learned.
I love that. I love that. If there's anything I want to achieve, or I would like for us to achieve, is for people to know that whatever you've accepted as truth can be revisited.
Oh, of course, I'm
and you can unlearn
what you,
habits,
and
right?
Our children are starting to show a lot of mental health problems. Our children are
they are emotionally
woke. To the ER departments. They're coming, not breathing.
Hyperventilating, bro.
Saying that the blood is not circulating.
How do they know?
That's something that's called
psychosomatic illness.
It's almost what you described earlier, where people
you tell yourself you're sick.
Tell yourself you're sick.
So then you end up
with the symptoms.
Once you tell yourself you're sick,
you end up with the symptoms.
So it's called a psychosomatic illness. So what I've deciphered, this is from a Yami point of view. Our children are going through a lot. Most teenagers have got parents that are not together. So the nuclear family is gone. On top of that, the nuclear family is gone. They are the appendages, the step parents that come into play. that come in, some of them zizane right kakhle, some of them zizane boundaries zazo, some of them zizane into zazo that
Baza nezivubeko.
ezingaziwayo ezingekho right. But andifuna uthetha ngaloo nto ngoku, I'm not talking about step parentage now, but what I'm saying is that abantwana baza nento ezininzi, and on top of that mna ndingumama kaLuthando, I want him to do pure maths. Ngoba i-pure maths iza kumsa akwazi ukwenza i-medicine.
You're now living your life through him.
Azokwenza i-medicine like myself, no Emma nakenza i-pure maths. Elo xesha abekho gifted at all kwi-maths abantwana bam. Abantwana bethu sibenza we are creating anxiety for our children ourselves. These kids come, I'll even remember about 2 years back, it was said that you cannot do physics if you are not, imagine, I'm an adult now who didn't have a child in matric, but I knew this because a lot of children that were coming into the hospital then were children who were affected by the fact that you cannot do physics if you are not doing pure maths. So meaning that a lot of new options that they wanted to do were
already knocked out the park.
And some of them, if physics was stopped in matric. So when
already
that
knocked
whole
out.
rule came out, so I just want to say, guys, abantwana bethu already, just because of life yethu esiphilayo apha endlini, they already are at risk of mental health just nge-life lesiphilayo. Now putting more pressures on them causes them to have anxiety, and the anxiety ibhlungu. I've suffered through it. The anxiety between it feels like this train iyabaleka.
Your stomach is constantly turning, bro.
And you're sitting down. Abantu think you're sitting down, kanti apha ngaphakathi ukwitrain ebalekayo. So imagine,
guys, where is this kuchu going? What
Everywhere mchana.
Ngaske kube netowel ezakuqinisa.
What are you guys?
Because a lot is happening here.
Okay,
a lot is happening here.
Wait.
Imagine that happening to a child.
I have felt anxious when I've been asked to give maybe a speech unprepared. And I want you to break this down for me.
Okay.
I've felt anxious going into spaces, into boardrooms, where I'm like, oh my God, I'm supposed to. Am I ready or not? I know anxiety.
Yeah.
But you seem like you're talking about something I've never gone through.
It is constant.
And you know what constant?
It is constant.
It's persistent worrying about everything. And with this persistent worrying about everything, inayo I'm going to correct Brian. Inayo nale element into uyifail.
Bro?
Uyifail. That's why you are so anxious, because you are a failure.
You want to succeed, and if you fail now, the pressure is on you to not fail. Flip. I can't fail.
That means you can't sleep.
Yeah.
Because
Can
you
I
are
ask you a
forever
question?
anxious.
I can't fail.
Can
And you're sitting there hyperventilating.
And this is not coming from arrogance, but so what you are if you are one?
If you're feeling it, go. You can feel like a failure on it. Oh gosh, I feel like such a failure. This is a 24/7.
Okay, you feel like,
situation.
I didn't do that speech so well. Flip, I could have done better. No, this is 24 hours a day, bro.
All
Every
the time.
second of every minute.
Sleep does not happen.
Doesn't.
Sleep because
Doesn't.
It's a tough one.
It's difficult to explain.
It's a really tough one to explain. It's persistent worrying.
Yeah.
It's persistent, excessive worrying about the future, worrying about your health, worrying about your children, worrying about everything. And now with the life SCP, for instance, now we've got the Iran-USA war. We are so far down. Since South Africa, this war is affecting us. Diesel zonyuka ngoba abantu ba anxious ke la 7 rand yonyuke ngayi diesel.
Diesel last week. Sayibala ngoku.
So
like,
okay.
I'm already calculating into beef is going to go up, bread is going up. E-taxi ziyenyuka.
Man can funda uqhoba bicycle yazi mhlawumbe ndizum afford no Bolt bicycle mhlawumbe izanceda.
E-taxi ziyenyuka in the next week and a half.
Sezonyukile.
How would you know that?
Sezonyukile taxi.
Do you see what anxiety does? That's exactly what anxiety
Do you know,
does,
I
bro.
want to actually say something on this topic as we are going to be going for closing. Somebody said to me, you know, filling up station.
Yeah.
And as much as I almost got, because it doesn't get 10 rand, that's a lot.
Yeah.
It's not sad. But also, I have an inherent acceptance system within me that says, look, it's your new reality. You might get this full tank yokuqala, but then what?
Yeah.
Ultimately, this is the reality that you have to live in.
Yeah.
Now, I can't even imagine how it feels like to be somebody with anxiety who takes on this responsibility on themselves, who starts now multiplying the ripple effects of the bedrock.
Everything that's gonna happen, yeah.
What? No,
Bread
that's
going up, tomatoes, apples, noodles,
Everything.
yonke into about to literally.
So,
That's what anxiety does.
I want to maybe then...
Yeah.
Wow,
You
guys.
just don't stop. You don't stop, bro.
I want, before you close, I want to talk on the topic of parasuicide. Because, I mean, if we're talking about these things, we have to at least end with parasuicide. I know a lot of people don't know what that word is. Parasuicide is someone who has tried to commit suicide but were not successful. So we term them as they committed parasuicide.
Yeah.
Ndifuna uthetha nani navigators ndithi a lot of people have come through us with parasuicide. I-parasuicide ndicela uyenza uba ndiyenise umzekelo ka-Sylvia Plath. Sylvia Plath was one of the greatest literary writers of our time. And Plath tried so many times to kill herself, right up until she succeeded. By the time Plath kills herself, she puts her children ezirumini and then abeke itawul for uvala apha ezantsi kweminyango. Alayite oven, and she puts her head in the oven. And that's probably that's the most painful way to die.
Oh, bro. Drowning
That was probably
and burning.
the 50th time she had tried to kill herself. I want you to understand, even if namhlanje uqale ngebhikho lo yazi iba izubulala abantu waye esibhedlele ngebhikho ezi10, the minute uqala, a lot of people who start, they usually complete. You can start ngo-1990 and complete ngo-2020. Ndiyanicela navigators that when the time nibona ba anikho right, sikhona siqeshwe ngo-government thina asikhona kwapha private, sikhona to assist, because when uzocimba ile uyenzileyo ngoku, but most people who start complete. That I can assure you.
Wow.
You've just taken me down memory lane. And loud shout out to Sasa Umpotuma, you stopped me. Bro.
She stopped you from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bro, I've N14 close to Pretoria.
Yeah.
Turned off the lights, I was trying to find a cow. But this is it. I'm talking about 2009, 2010. It goes on, it doesn't stop. There are times when it will hit you so hard where you don't know what the hell is going on. 2024 in December. And I still apologize to my mother for it. I had already checked out. I told her in Dobana. Sharp, guys. I'm talking about 2 years ago. No. So Lendo iteta your talk, it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop.
I'm so sorry. Thank you, Brian, for saying that. I'm so sorry if I'm taking your time.
No.
I'm even going to take it a step further.
I'm revealing a lot.
When it comes, I even call it suicide.
Yeah.
Suicide xa ifika uvakala apha endlebeni.
Ngoku.
And suicide akavakale kushouta. Uthetha nawe kakuhle. Suicide uthetha nawe apha endlebeni. Can't you see into mama you are a burden?
Yeah, masambe.
I was born by a burden. Do you know that xa wena exista? Don't you know that your kids are gonna be fine? Don't you know that kumqobo kumntu wonke? Yabona when that thought comes, iza ireasonisha nawe ikubonisa into ba hayi man jonga, the only thing is akunceda wena ile so kunga fancy ba Brian waske waziyela nje. Something told him ba yazi wena into eza kwenza into ba yonke into be right is for ungabikho.
Rather
it reasons with you in such in an elegant
Subtle manner.
In an elegant
It
manner.
speaks to
Subtle.
you. It speaks to you with university English from China, with
Yeah, but-
MBA type of English.
Uzibona uba, hayi man. In fact,
Actually.
ingani,
Actually, bro,
I'm just a burden.
I'm healing. Listen, I'm healing. I'm a work in progress.
I love that.
I'm
that
not.
you are.
I'm not gonna sit here and lie in front of everyone that we speak to on a weekly basis. In China, I'm a work in progress, and there are people out there who have probably checked out right now as we speak, who are looking at checking out right now as we speak. May is Mental Health Awareness Month.
I know, and we're doing that leading up to that this episode.
It happens.
I know.
It happens.
Oh, what a loaded
and I'd
episode!
like- and
You
I'd
didn't
like-
expect this,
What a
Natasha.
no.
And I'd like,
I warned you. I
as
told
part
you
of
this one.
As part of this episode, Navigators, I'd like, if there's anyone who wants to reach out, I'd like you to DM Navigators.
Please.
And
Please.
please DM Navigating Life with Viewer, and we will find ways to assist you.
Please.
If anyone feels like anything we've spoken about today that it resonates with them, it's something
Please.
that they've gone with.
Please.
I'm making it my personal journey for you to just DM Navigating with Viewer, and we will get you what you need. We will get you
Absolutely.
the help that my father did not have. I will assist you to have.
The help I'm finding. Let's go, guys.
The help I'm finding too.
We
The
live.
help
Wow.
We
the
live.
help
We
I'm
live. We are
working with.
alive.
And this openness that I'm also getting, thank you so much for sharing your stories. I really took each and everything that you guys said seriously. Very enlightening. And I hope for anybody else who might have not understood in mental health, this was also eye-opening for them.
Yeah.
Because the truth is you are either affected or maybe not infected, but definitely affected. Z, are you okay? Are you fine?
Love you, Z.
I'm
Exact-
so sorry.
Choose better, Navigator.
I'm so sorry.
Njoba mhlophe apha, you glowing,
Shoba
yeah.
yellow bone up.
Yellow bone apha ukudlula
Now,
uviwe,
yeah.
yellow boneness.
Brown engineer. Now, having said that, navigators, I live, and I think I'm reminded of the words of Gawain Dyer when he tries to explain what worry is in our lives. I think worry came out strongly for us today in our conversation. Stressing about tomorrow, stressing about how everything is going to turn out, stressing about that, and being caught up in constant feelings of feeling inadequate, of feeling like a failure, of worrying about your existence, your survival, those that you're minding and caring for, And there's a story that he talks about a moving ship, and he says whatever trail is left behind is not what drives the ship.
Yeah.
It is the evidence of where the ship has been.
Yeah.
And whatever that you see in your life as going wrong is not what is driving you forward. It is the evidence of where you've been, of the decisions that you have taken. But what drives the ship is what's inside it. It's hidden and it's called an engine. It's what drives you. And I hope that for everybody who's suffering from any level of mental suppression, that you understand what drives you forward. Unfortunately, worry does not change anything. You worry about something that has already happened. You judge yourself about it, but nothing will change it. It has already happened. It is part of history. It is part of the events that have already befallen you. Worrying about the future, unfortunately, if it was going to change something, I would be advocating for you to worry about the future. But also, worrying about the future has so many unconfirmed elements. There's a lot that you imagine that is going to go this way. And worrying about it does not change or not create certainty of the path ahead of you. So it makes me stand here confident to say maybe worry as a feeling is useless for our existence. Sometimes it alarms us to realities that are not going to befall us. Or it sometimes worries us about things that we have no control over. So if it's in your past, it's already happened. I hope you heal and you learn to live with it. And if it's in the future, we don't know if you're going to make it to that point. So maybe we should just be appreciative of where our feet are standing, and may we all pour from each other. May the love that captures one of us be the language that we speak to each other. Can we carry the gentleness and the spirit of Easter and God? May you be blessed. It is a wrap.